every sound, gonna turn this thing around. Stepping up, we're standing tall. Breaking free, we've heard the call. Every voice, one and all, gonna rise and break the wall. Take our stand, moving fierce with heart in hand. Every step across the land, striving strong, a mighty band. Gonna feel it in my soul, gonna chase and reach my goal. Every beat, every roll, gonna make the world
In this new test, we're taking a closer look at, in particular, the Evo Dlab, the top model in Duotone's Evo range. The new model is set up with a 6-point bridle without pulleys. The steering lines are connected directly to the tip, and there are 3 different options to adjust bar pressure and turning speed to your preference. Inflation and deflation are still handled via the familiar Duotone valve, and the one pump system is very straight and kept short. And for those who want to roll up their kite lengthwise, there's an additional dump valve at one tip end. Both the front tube and the struts are made from alula. Here the front tube is sealed with a Kedda seam, which is doubled from the inside and stitched 4 times on each side. For the canopy there's the Trinity TX and the Mod 3 fabric from Duotone. One is a mix of a double and a triple ripstop material or a fine meshed double ripstop material. And to prevent any fluttering at higher flight speeds, there are 2 additional battens on each side at the trailing edge. Potential abrasion and chafing points are reinforced with rubberized material. Line deflectors are only present at the end of the front tube. The other 3 struts do without line deflectors. Each of the cross struts is attached to the canopy with a single seam and is doubled and glued from the inside. And to further reinforce the entire framework, a complete Mod 3 frame has been built at the transition from the alula, from the front tube to the canopy. If you watch the video of the first 2024 model again, you'll notice that not much has changed in terms of material composition. The main changes here have been made to the tip geometry and the profile. The gliding performance is, as with the predecessor, good to very good. This results in a homogeneous blend of very early airflow attachment, consistently high base pull, and, even when you keep it in a slight sinusoidal motion, an additional acceleration due to a slightly increasing flight speed. However, this is no longer quite as pronounced or as noticeable as in the previous model. Now everything feels just a bit more moderate and, in fact, a bit more balanced. Compared to its predecessor, though, we no longer have that truly remarkable, playful character that was previously noticeable. The upwind characteristics are very good. You can feel it immediately. The kite has very little drag against the wind. The slim leading edge and the profile ensure that the canopy takes a slightly wider outer position at the wind window and remains extremely stable there. Corrections within the wind window are absolutely unnecessary here. Once it has taken its position, no further corrections are needed, and the canopy catches the wind very well. The bar feel is a bit firmer than its predecessor, meaning that the holding and steering forces have also increased somewhat compared to the previous model and are now solidly in the medium range. The response to steering commands is direct and absolutely precise, and you always get good feedback about the kite's position in the wind window. Since the kite now holds its position just a bit more stably and securely than its predecessor and can no longer change its position at the front as quickly or as responsively through flight speed, the basic pull overall feels slightly higher. The evenness of the new Evo Dlab also continues when it comes to power delivery. However, this is a slightly increasing process that depends on the wind strength. If we have normal moderate wind conditions or a bit more wind, we get a really consistently high and steadily increasing power here. With stronger winds, the whole thing does become a bit more explosive. Overall, it seems even easier to handle and a bit more solid. In other words, the required riding skill or the range where an Evo Dlab makes sense compared to an SLS starts even earlier. The overall more moderate impression also continues in its flight characteristics. The turning radii are fundamentally solid, ranging from medium to tight, and are always perfectly round. In our test, we had 9 and 12 square meters available, and of course we can't really comment on double loops and the like, because this 9 square meter size is much more suited for single loops. In any case, we'll consider 9 square meters as the smallest size here. The flight speed is generally considered to be in the medium range, and with increasing, really strong wind, it can even reach what is classified as the high range. For a kite with this aspect ratio, it has good water relaunch capabilities, which even at 10 knots and in deep water poses no problem for experienced riders. Let's move on to the topic of jumping. That's probably what most people in this category are especially interested in. Overall, the jumping performance of the new Evo Dlab is consistently very good and absolutely outstanding. But unlike its predecessor, which already had excellent jumping performance, and of course we also have to compare it to the in-house Rebel here as well, it's a bit like how Duotone describes the categorization of each kite on their own website. For the Evo Dlab, the very first thing that is listed is freeride and not big air. The first Evo Dlab helped shape and spark the big air hype and euphoria surrounding it. And all of this is achieved through a light, fast flight behavior with the kite accelerating in the air so you can generate even more hang time and so on. The new model is noticeably much more subdued in its overall appearance and is fundamentally more solid and robust. We have a moderate flight speed, which can generally be higher in strong winds or if you try to pull the kite loop very tight. The main difference, however, is that with moderate wind strengths, even with optimal takeoff technique, meaning trying to achieve the best possible vertical lift, you can only generate that with this kite when there is a lot of wind, and even then, only with absolutely perfect technique. If you use a normal riding technique, the way most people are used to, just trying to set the edge as simply as possible, with the upper body usually leaning a bit further back, then the kite simply gives a slight diagonal direction from its flight path. And then, if we compare that with other normal freeride high-performance kites, like at the same time we tested a slingshot machine, every jump result with the machine was overall higher, and the hang time was also longer. But if you make use of the whole thing in strong wind conditions, as it's probably intended, since this top model is really meant to be the optimal kite for significantly better riders, and you actually master the optimal jumping technique, then you can generate even more boost, achieve truly excellent vertical lift, and also enjoy good to very good passive hang time. The hang time that the first model had, which was generated by flight speed and consciously steering in the wind window during the flight phase to extend the hang time, just doesn't work the same way with the new model. Instead, this one is really aimed more at the very sporty freerider or the near pro to pro rider. But in the professional sector, the new Rebel Dlab has simply been totally convincing this year because it loops even tighter than the Evo, which wasn't the case before, and thanks to its higher aspect ratio and even better airflow from its 5 struts, it produces even more hang time. And please don't get us wrong here, we're talking about absolute top performance in kites, and all the products we're comparing here are top of the line. At this level, the competition is extremely tight, so to speak, and it's really about which kite has a slight edge in a particular area. It comes down a bit more to which skill level is addressed more easily or accessibly, and in that respect, the new Evo Dlab is definitely aimed at a skill level just below that of the previous model. In the normal moderate wind range, it simply makes such a solid, reliable impression, though without any surprises or any kind of wow or hype effect that would make you say, that's really amazing. Instead, everything is just as you would expect it to be. It's only when you get into the absolute upper wind range, like flying a 9 square meter kite in 35 knots or more, really going for big air and having perfect riding technique, that you can achieve extremely high performance here. And if you truly count yourself among the target group we've just tried to describe, because it really doesn't get much easier, not even in the future, then, of course, along with the very high riding performance, you also have to deal with high costs. A 12 square meter kite comes in at 3,149 euros. And of course, some people will start to wonder whether they really want that in this performance segment. After all, with the Evo SLS, which we tested at the beginning of the year, we also found this absolute versatility, along with a playful character and a very high performance. And all that at a price that is significantly more affordable compared to the Evo Dlab. In this case, as the saying goes, having a choice means having a dilemma.